Hi, and welcome to the 2018 paper 1 of the Leaving Cert ordinary level. This is the first question in section B, question 7. Now, as usual, I suggest you pause this video and have a go at the section we're on, okay? And you'll see the answer then on the next page. If you want those set of notes I'm working off, just send me an email at shanetroy@gmail.com. That email address will be in the description below. So apologies in advance for this question 7. There's a lot of parts to it, so it's going to take some time. Let's get stuck in. Question 7 here says, part of the seating arrangement in a theatre is shown in the diagram below. The seats are arranged in rows. So you see that here in the diagram, you have your stage and the seats going back. There's more seats in each row as it goes back. It says here that row 1 is nearest the stage and has 28 seats. Each subsequent row behind that contains one more seat. That is, the row 2 is 29, row 3 is 30, row 4 has 31, etc. So we could make up a linear model here, and you'll see the pattern shows a difference of 1 each time, and your starting point is 28, okay? Or we could just count it up, okay? So counting up method is probably how they want it done, okay? And I have the answer just built in here, and you just flick to it. So if row 1 is 28, row 2 is 29, row 3 is 30, yada, 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 all the way as far as row 10 is 37. Now, you don't need to have all these written in. I just put them in for clarity, okay? Just be very careful if you are using a trial and error method like this, that you don't miscount, okay? If you show the pattern like that, if you did go wrong here, you still get some marks in the sense like the mid-partial 3 here, whatever, and because you have shown that you understand the pattern, okay? Now, part A, that's it. Okay, so part B here now, there's 2 parts on this page, but part B is worth 10 marks. It's a C scale, so there's a strike at the 3 or the 8. It says here there are 50 seats in the last row. How many rows of seats are there in the theatre? Now, this is the formula you see for an arithmetic sequence. A sequence going up in a steady amount, okay, by 1, by 1, by 1. You could use the y equals mx plus c to find that, okay? But this is supposed the more appropriate formula, the one they'd most likely want you to use. So let's go straight to the answer here, okay, because we're done out. So your formulas here, okay, so the total number of seats is given by the first term, the first number of seats, plus the number of stages, number of rows, take away 1 times the difference. Now we know this is, I suppose, 3 unknowns, okay? Actually, for 4 unknowns, sorry. This total number of seats, the first difference, the number of rows, and the difference. So we can only have 1 unknown if we need to solve this. So let's see what we have. So the total number of seats in the last row is 50. So we get the 50 here. The first term is 28. That's in row 1, there's 28 seats. Its n is what we're looking for, and the difference each time is 1. So now I have an equation of 1 unknown. It's just a matter of solving it out. So first thing I've done here is I've actually done 2 things. I brought the 28 across the equal. So it was being added on the right, becomes subtracted on the left. At the same time, I've multiplied the 1 into the brackets. I multiplied by both terms. Now, ultimately, nothing's going to change. Anything by 1 is itself. So that's not. It's going to end up being n minus 1, which is where I get this. Do the math, okay, 50 take away 28 is 22. At the same time here now, I've done 2 things. I've brought the minus 1 across. It was subtracted on the right, it was added on the left. I end up with this little sum here. 22 plus 1 is equal to 23. And I've just written the answer up here. So that's part B, okay. Now part C, I'll leave the answer where it is. Find the total number of seats in the theatre. Now in the maths tables, that'll be given to you as the sum of the terms. And that's the formula here. The terms A and D mean the same thing. So we're looking at find the total number of seats. Now we know now from the answer in part B that there's 23 rows. So how many seats in total? Let's fill it in. So n is 23. The first term is 28 still. And the difference is 1. So our unknown is the total number of seats. Put that through your calculator. Okay, be very careful you don't mess up with the brackets, whatever. And I got a value here of 897 seats. Okay, so that's fairly handy. The 2 formulas to be looking at in the maths tables will be this one and this one, and would get you through most things in arithmetic sequence or sequences in series. So part D here now. On a particular night, 600 people are at a show in the theatre. Okay, assume that people are seated only in the rows closest to the stage. That is, they have filled the first rows, and there are some people seated in the next row. Find the value of n and find the number of people seated in the next row. So it's as if they filled, if I went back here to the beginning, they've filled this row, and then they filled the next row. Now, they're talking about many rows back, but then there's a certain number of seats filled in the last row. Not exactly how humans work, but let's see how this works out. We'll go straight to the answer here. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go at yourself to try and work through the logic of it. Now, we're told that there are 600 people, so that's the sum of all the people as such, and you're using your formula we used just in the last page, but now it's n is the unknown. We don't know how many rows we're talking about. Okay, so if you look at it, there's one unknown. Now it's there twice, so we need to solve that out. If I go left to right, I'm just going to remove brackets, so I end up with 2 times 28 is 56, which is where I get that. At the same time, I've just removed this 1 times the bracket. As we said previously, that doesn't change what's inside the bracket. So you end up with n minus 1. Let's go now. I think the next stage, I'm going to actually multiply across by the... Actually, I'm going to do first, I'm doing 2 things here. Multiplying by 2, okay, to remove the 2 on the bottom here. So it's 2 times 600 is 1200. Now 2 times n over 2, the 2's will cancel. Okay, so you're left with n. Now, I'm going to then, at the same time, I'm multiplying that n we've left with into the bracket, just for space reasons. So it's n times 56 is 56n, n times n is n squared, n times negative 1 is negative 1n. Okay, so now there's simplification to do. I'm going to bring everything to one side. Now, I recognize here that this is going to be an equation of the same unknown, but one of the terms is squared. That's a quadratic. Okay, so certain things are going to happen. If I bring the 1200 across, it becomes negative 1200. So the n squared doesn't change. I'm moving it around on the same side, so there's no sign changes or whatever. The 56 take away 1n is 55n. And as I said, the 1200 goes across equal and becomes negative. So now I end up with everything on one side. That's a quadratic. Okay. Now, if I try to solve this using the faster method, it doesn't work. Okay, because when you see the answer, it's not an even number. So I'm going to have to use the minus b formula, and with lack of space, I have to do it pretty fast. But there's a question back in one of the previous questions on this paper where we go through solving a quadratic using the formula. If you want to use that as a basis to make sure you understand what's going on. But I'm using here the general form of this quadratic. Now I'm using n as the variable, not x, but it's the number in front of the variable that we're concerned with. So the number in front of n squared is 1. That's that there. The number in front of the n is 55. The number at the end is negative 1200. So I have all 3 terms I need for the formula. So that's the quadratic formula here written. I've replaced the x with n. I put my numbers in. I could go to the calculator and just resolve it down, going left to right, top then bottom. But I've kind of left it out because it's just literally lack of space. And I've got 2 values of n. One is 16.7, one is negative 71.7. Now, you can't have a negative number of rows, so that's excluded. So my answer is 16.7. So in the 16th row is what I'm concerned with. Now, for speed reasons as well, and not necessarily speed, but lack of space, I've used the sum of the number of people formula, the S of n equals whatever n over 2, this, basically this formula here. And I've put in 16 instead of n, and I've calculated 568 people. Now, there's still 600 people, so the second part of the question is, how many people are left over after the 16th row? Well, if you take 568 from 600, that's how many people are left over, okay, and that comes out to me as 32. It's a fairly hardcore question, lots of words, okay. I often see people, they read it once, read it twice, and they're embarrassed that they don't get it. Trust me, I've had to read these questions multiple times. When I don't, it's when I mess up, okay? I answer something that I think was being asked, and it wasn't. So I would suggest write out what information you're given and just spend time trying to problem solve it. As you do more practice of these things, they get easier and easier and easier. But obviously that involves putting in the practice. Then that's part D. So part E here says, for a particular show, adult tickets cost 25 each, children's tickets cost 12 each. Find the total income from ticket sales if there was 276 adults tickets sold and 212 children tickets sold. Now this is lovely. Okay, lovely question. 5C. Okay, so we should be able to get this. So if you had one adult going and one child going, it would be 25 plus 12 would be 37. Now, we have a lot more than that happening, but basically it's 276 times 25 plus 212 times 12. Okay, and add them together and you have your answer. Now, I've done everything down here. So adult ticket cost times number of adults plus child's ticket cost by number of children. That's written out here. I've done that first bit and the second bit, and they're added together. That's the calculation for each side of it. Now, you could just go straight to the answer if you use your calculator. And I came out with a figure of €9,444. Happy days. So F now, there's two parts here to F. We have, for a different show, 752 tickets were sold. The ratio of adult tickets sold to children's tickets sold is 3:1. Find out how many adult tickets and how many children's tickets were sold for that show. Now, the big problem here is ratios. People have a hard time understand ratios. We don't really use them that often, okay? But basically, something's a ratio of 3:1. Okay, excuse this, not looking very pretty. All that means is you're ignoring the denominator of the fraction that the ratio comes from. To find that denominator, you just add the ratios together. So 3 and 1 is 4. So there was 3/4 of the audience was adults, 1/4 of the audience was children. That should make things easier, okay? If you know what 1/4 is, you know what 2/4 is, or 3/4 is, or whatever. Okay. Now we're told what 4/4. So 4/4, which is the full amount, equals what? The 752. Okay. So in order to solve this, you know what 1/4 is. Now technically, mathematically, you're bringing this 4 on top across. Okay. If you move this 4 across, it leaves 1 behind. Okay. And you end up with 752 divided by 4. But I'm going to go to the answer I've done out here. So I've shown that the ratio, adults to children, and then the fraction. Okay. So divide the 752 by 4, and I get 188. And that's 1/4 of the people going. Okay. So you divide by 4 to get a quarter. Is basically what you're doing. And that's the number of children. Then multiply 88 by 3. So if 1/4 is 188, 2/4 is twice that, 3/4 is 3 times that. And I get 564. Or you could have taken 188 away from 752. Okay. Either way, you're correct. And have the answers written in there in the appropriate place. So that's F part 1. It's tricky, but again, ratios, as long as you get a handle on them, okay, they're handy. But that's not something, a skill I see very often when I'm marking the papers. It's always fairly poorly answered by a slight majority. Okay. So F part 2 now. For the show referred to in part F1, an adult ticket costs 2.5 times more or as much as a children's ticket. The income was 17,578. Find the cost of a children's ticket for the show. So this is what you're looking for. Let's call that X. Okay. So basically you have your income, I'm just going to call it I for simplicity. Your income equals, it's supposed to be an equals, not a Z, but what's it now? Let's see, X plus 2.5 times X. Now don't forget that that's just one child and one adult. We had 188 children. Okay, so 188 times that, plus what was it, 564 times that. Now, I'm being messy there. Let's go to the answer here. So I've done all that there. So you have your income, the 17,578, equal to the number of children times the ticket price, plus the number of adults times 2.5 the children's ticket price. And that's done out with numbers here. Okay, so that's where I left off. So 188 times X. If you notice here, it's an equation of one unknown, so I can solve it. It's just a little bit tricky here, but the calculator is there to help you. Nothing's changed here in this next step. If the income's the same, the children's the same, and I'm just multiplying 564 by 2.5, I came out with 1,410. So add those two x terms together. So the 17578 equals the 1598 I got there. Okay, happy days. Now, this is just algebra. I want to know what x is. So you bring the 1598 across the equal. It was multiplying on the right, becomes divided on the left. Divide those numbers into each other, and I come out with 11. Okay. Now, if you did the wrong way around, and you divided 1598 by the 17578, you have like maybe 0.1 or something. So what you're saying there's 0.1 of a euro was the cost of a children's ticket. Now that's 10 cents. So there's a certain amount of self-awareness of just thinking of the answer. Does that make sense? A 10-cent ticket price, that just makes sense. Okay, 11 euro ticket price. Fortunately, that makes all too much sense. And an adult price then would be what 2.5 times that would seem like a reasonable price. I think that's the end. Okay, so that's the end of question 7. It's the longest question in the paper, so apologies for the length of the video. And best luck. See you in question 8.